Welcome to the Executive Hustle podcast, where I am your host, Kirsten, speaker, author, retired CEO, mother of four, and recovering workaholic. Explore with Central Pennsylvania local executives what it takes to lead well, live well, and learn well. Understanding that leaders cannot survive, let alone thrive, without a spirit of curiosity, a discipline of accountability, and a disposition for vulnerability. Let's dive in. Welcome to the Executive Hustle podcast. Another episode today is with our guest, Dr. Cheryl Tierney, Chief Medical Officer for Meliora Health, full Professor of Pediatrics and developmental pediatrician at the Penn State Milton S. Hershey Medical Center, one of my close friends. Welcome to the Executive Hustle, Cheryl.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
Oh, we are so excited to have you. I have known some of your story here since moving to this area, 15 years ago, maybe now? Something like that? Yeah, just about. So excited to hear more of the story that I don't know, and certainly for our listeners. One of the places I start many of these podcasts is, tell me, Cheryl, at 7, did you think you'd be doing what you're doing today?
Oh, no, definitely not. I don't know that I can remember exactly 7 years old, but definitely in my earlier years. If you were to fast forward and see my life and go back and tell people that knew me and myself that this is where I would land, I would have argued and said, no, that's not possible, and very unlikely. Yes.
What did you want to be when you were 7?
Nothing with kids, nothing with pediatrics. I had no desire to go into medicine. I actually thought I would follow a little bit of my dad in his footsteps, more computer science.
Uh-huh.
My dad was in computer science. I was definitely a science kid, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So science was definitely where I was headed, but there were no one had ever had a graduate degree in my family. Nobody, there are no physicians. So I didn't have any role models in that regard, but I was not known for being a kid lover. Like, I didn't babysit, and I didn't enjoy hanging out with people that had children. And as a younger version of myself, I did not see this coming.
So first graduate degree, first physician in the family, didn't follow footsteps. How did this turn of events happen?
Yeah. When I was in college, I was a computer science major. I knew I was going to be in science of some sort. Computer science seems like a natural fit, but I was doing really poorly right out of the gate. Got my first C ever, first computer science class after, pretty much being a straight A student with not a lot of effort. And I was dating a pre-med, had a boyfriend that was pre-med, and I had some friends that were pre-med. And my boyfriend was struggling in physics. And even though I had not taken physics before, I tutored him because it came naturally to me. And as I was tutoring him and hanging out with his friends and then my friends who were pre-med, I said, this computer science thing may not work out because I'm not doing well at all. And I said, maybe I'll switch to something easier and try medical school. And that was truly what I thought. Yeah. And so I did. After my first year and not doing well and realizing it was just going to get harder from here and feeling that I just didn't have the support, there were not a lot of women in computer science.
Sure.
So I switched to pre-med, and that was a very natural fit for me. I started again achieving my goals and doing well. Yeah.
So you just decided to do something easy, which was pre-med for you. So just keep that in mind, listeners.
Right. Yes. That is, and for me, compared to how I was doing, it was a good decision. It was a good decision.
Well, I know many families who would agree with you there. That this was a good decision for you. And it reminds me of the quote many times I have heard you say, hard will do and impossible will just take a little bit longer.
Yes, I probably wasn't that firm in those beliefs in computer science because as I thought that was the impossible. Maybe I would have given it another semester or two, but and that I probably worked the hardest for the C's I got in that first year than I had worked in any course ever.
Yeah.
So it just really felt like maybe the better choice was to jump ship and change direction, change course. So then and then I thought I would do adult medicine.
Okay.
I did not have interest in peds at all and felt that, my image back in the, 80s and early 90s was doctors took care of adult patients. And of course I had a pediatrician myself, so I knew at some level that wasn't true, but most doctors I knew took care of adult patients, and I was not drawn to children at that point. So I started down the path of internal medicine was like my first thoughts, which of course, almost every decision I thought I would make changed course and went a different direction. So I landed in very, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And so you were wildly curious about what else could be, and you explored those things. What else is there besides computer science? What else was there besides adults? And here you are.
Yeah, I think when thinking about like those lessons learned, if I look back at how my life course went, to me, one of those life lessons is don't be so sure of yourself. Be open to the possibility that some of your decisions may need to be re-examined. And if something isn't going the way you thought, one option is to continue down that path and plow through the model of the impossible will just take me longer, right?
Yep.
But the other one is knowing when it's okay to change your mind.
Right. Right. How's that showing up for you right now?
Well, in my current role, I'm a chief medical officer of a company that crosses 5 states. And we take care of children with disabilities, with autism and ADHD, neurodevelopmental disabilities. And I thought I would be in academic medicine my whole career. I never considered leaving academics. I loved a lot of things about it, but because I had an opportunity to, I think, make a greater impact for a larger number of people, I had to figure out a way to become comfortable with some more uncertainty. That's the hardest thing I think for people, is to become comfortable with uncertainty. And medicine is all about being comfortable with uncertainty, but even changing career trajectories and paths and taking a risk is another example of that. Yeah. Because what I'm doing now is really rewarding, but risky. And that is another one of those areas of how much risk and uncomfortableness am I willing to endure, so for the potential, bigger pay of being successful, helping so many more kids.
Yeah. What are you learning about yourself in this journey right now?
Man, uncertainty is hard. I feel like sometimes you trade one stress for a different stress, right?
Okay.
Life isn't without stress at all. How to manage stress in a really, we're going to talk about that, but managing stress and having tools to manage stress, and what is good stress and what is bad stress.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stress. That'll be a new one for me. Thank you. I'll be looking forward to that part of this conversation.
And there's definitely better stress and worse stress.
Okay. Do tell. So let's start there.
Yeah, let's start there. So, there's our body perceives stress by producing cortisol and heightening your awareness and becoming a little hypervigilant. And, there's a lot of biochemical changes that happen in your body when you have stress, but your body can tell the difference between stress that is good stress. So you're doing something exciting, a new job, a new opportunity, a new project, a new deadline, but for something you really enjoy.
Okay.
Your body does sense the difference between stressful situations that bring you down and stressful situations that empower you.
Oh, okay.
And deciding, when you think about burnout or you think about being overworked, these are all much more negative stresses that take a toll on your physical health, whereas stress that brings you up, motivates you, empowers you, is exciting to you, actually extends your life. And you have to be able to really be mindful of course, always having your toolbox full of strategies for mitigating any kind of stress, but being able to also recognize when something is more toxic stress for you and it's going to, I say this, I have a lot of these phrases, but you only live once.
Yeah.
And how much time do you want to spend doing things that are not serving you? Versus how much time do you want to spend even exciting, stressful things that empower you and motivate you and make you feel good at the end, even though it may be stressful getting there.
Right. So, wow, that's a great revelation for me in thinking about, stress just not as one big thing, but there being good stress and there being bad stress, and being able to differentiate between those two things and thinking about how much time am I spending in either of these sort of states of being, maybe as a way of thinking about it. One phrase I used to say, you mentioned earlier, gosh, this is a lot more overwhelming. This is a lot more uncertain, this level of leading where you are now. So as a former CEO, one of my phrases was, I'll sleep when I'm dead.
Yeah, we both said that together. You and I
we,
rooms said that
we,
together.
we said that a lot. Yes.
Yeah.
Were we wrong?
I would say yes, to an extent that we were wrong. That because we're going to talk a little bit about sleep and how important sleep is. It was it was a metaphor. The sleep when it wasn't like legit. Don't sleep.
I don't know.
That would be bad advice. Hopefully, no doctor or is giving that advice. Of course not. I think it did feel like that. It was a metaphor for for putting aside your health, your emotional security for some goal, right? Some big fat hairy goal, right? That's the
BHAG. The BHAG, yes, that's right.
But and I think if it's small, something that's very time limited, I don't think it's a bad idea to sacrifice a little bit for a very large payout if it's something that motivates you, it's exciting to you, brings you joy. Again, you have to really kind of look at, are these toxic stresses in your life, or are they healthy stresses? Because it's impossible to think you're going to go through life and lead and have no stress in your life.
Right.
You're responsible for people's livelihoods.
There are practical realities here.
They're just practical reality, right? So you have to be able to figure out how to manage that in a healthy way. Exercise, sleep, healthy eating, ways of unplugging from your daily job to be able to pursue things that bring you joy and happiness. My husband and I talked about this a lot. Like, my husband has so many hobbies. Like, he's a musician, and he does, when he retires, like, he actually has things he likes to do, and I'm like, okay, well, that's great. Like, if I retire, what am I going to do? My hobbies have been my job.
Uh-oh. I appreciate you saying that, because I often wonder, is that a red flag?
Yeah.
And should you really consider, like, that is a warning sign that maybe we're not taking some of these things seriously.
Yeah, this is where, look, I don't want to make an assumption that all leaders that are, CEOs are looking at this, are married or have a spouse, because some are single, of course. But if you have an important person in your life, whether that's your spouse or a parent or a child or a best friend, and they're saying to you, hey, You need to reevaluate your choice, your life choices here. Because my husband would say that to me all the time. Like, I'm looking at you and it looks like you're
Right.
burning the candle at both ends.
Right.
And I was like, I'm fine, I'm fine. I love it. I love it. And now in retrospect, in the position that I'm in right now, I'm like, oh yes, like I think people that know you, that love you, see things that maybe you don't see.
Yeah, absolutely.
You should listen to, you should listen to your inner voice. Don't ignore your inner voice, but you also need to listen to those that love you and are around you that may be giving you good counsel.
Yeah. And when they're speaking versus when they're shouting, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Big difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I read a statistic somewhere, while we're on the topic of sleep, that there's 20% more heart attacks on the spring forward day for daylight savings because of this disruption of sleep. So there's got to be something real with sleep and our health for something like that to be so profoundly real. And heart attack, people die, 20% people are having heart attacks on just for 1 hour of sleep. I found that one hard to believe, but it is a true statistic, so I guess I have to believe it. But
Yeah. I sat on the uh, American Sleep Council and as an advisor and the American Sleep Association, sorry. And one of the things that we have been asked to weigh in on is whether or not if we should we get rid of daylight savings
right.
at, and if we do, should it be in the spring ahead or the fall back? Like where
Well, the data I would think are pretty clear.
yes, yes. And there is right, that's where that data comes from, is to take a look at losing an hour of
Mm.
sleep on a regular basis has clear health implications.
Yeah.
I've given a lot of advice because I'm in pediatrics to
Yeah.
particularly neurodiversity, where every change in their schedule is really disruptive.
Yes.
So the daylight savings, which we're about to go into right now,
Yeah.
um, is whether it's fall back or spring ahead, is a change that change in routine can be very long lasting. And I think adults don't even realize that change. So if you travel a lot to different time zones,
Hmm.
not even just daylight savings, but where you are losing and gaining sleep on a regular basis,
Hmm.
you have to really plan out how you're going to do that in a way that's the most healthy to you, to your body.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's chronic implications for these sleep disruptions for us as adults, whether it's affecting our eating patterns, it's affecting our cognitive patterns, and that for executives and leaders who, their thoughts and their decisions and their guidance to an organization, that's their livelihood. Impairment to that seems quite costly.
Yeah. I give a lot of advice to college students,
Mm.
and they stay up late cramming for a test
Mm-hmm.
or um, studying at night and giving up sleep. And we talk a lot about how you solidify learning when you're sleeping.
Right.
Stress goes down when you are well rested. You make better decisions and better choices when you're not tired. And you're much more likely to do well on those tests, not by putting in an extra hour of studying at the last minute, but by going to bed and getting an extra hour of sleep. And this has been shown time and time again. And yet so many people completely disregard that and they just want one more hour of cramming material and then are surprised when they don't perform optimally. Um, the airline industry has figured this out to make sure that people have certain number of hours off between working, that you can't fly more than a certain amount of hours per day. Like it's really important for critical decisions like that. Maybe medicine is starting to try to get a little bit into that by work hour restrictions,
Mm.
but only in training. It's not even in real life. You can be sleep deprived once you get out of school and training. There's no work hour restrictions for the attendings that are out there, the faculty, but there are for trainees and students. So it's at least headed in the right direction, but there's more work to do.
So for an executive that learns this, understands this, stress is reduced when we're well rested. We're going to make better decisions when we're well rested. Healthier employees make better decisions and are going to be more productive. how can they change the narrative? How can, in their own company, how can they create an environment that's more supportive of rest and sleep and reduce stress? What would be your advice to leaders?
Yeah. I mean, first you have to say it out loud. It's like what
Mm.
your values, and not make the assumption that people just know that you're a company that values work-life balance and rest, like real rest and sleep habits, right? And so I'm a big proponent of making it a clear what your values are by actually stating them.
Right.
And I think for someone who is, I run staff meetings twice a month with all of our employees, and we talk about how, you have a wellness benefit, or for companies that offer wellness benefits, the types of things that you want to maybe think about in using those wellness benefits. There's a reason why companies are adding wellness benefits, because it's not just a nice thing to do to say, oh, look, I gave them a pizza party and they have their wellness benefits. It's not in the same category. It's really because you will perform better. Your employees will perform better. So you have to say it out loud. Second is, you have to offer education to your employees so that they do understand that it's not just a value that the company holds, that these are our company values, but also we want you to understand the science behind why good sleep habits and getting a good night's rest and not working, you want good productivity, but you want people to be able to turn it off and be able to be present with their families and engage in fun things. So one of the things we've done at our company is we have a social, we're virtual, so we have a Slack channel that we all are in. It's called our social Slack channel. And I post there. We encourage everyone to post pictures of the things that they're doing with their families and on the weekends and after work hours, or if they go for a walk at lunch, which we really like when the weather's nice, it's not raining, it's not too cold, and you go out, post pictures of you being out and about. Like, we want to see evidence that you're doing it. And then it's motivating when you see your colleagues doing these things. It also gives you permission to do these things when other people are doing them and being visual about it.
Yeah. So not even just talking the talk, but walking the walk yourself, motivating them, encouraging them, doing it yourself and showing them that it's okay, like giving that permission. I hear you saying that. Yeah.
Yes. Sleep's a great topic because, I mean, it is my area of expertise. Like, I have a niche in sleep medicine. So, we do a lot of sleep visits and sleep counseling, and, a lot of our company is around helping kids and families sleep better. So this is an easy one for us to talk about. And it is, I do think that walk the walk, even my children, I used to say to them, like, I can't give advice all day to families about what they should do and not take my own advice.
Yeah.
Really, that goes against like who I am as a person. So we've always had habits that have promoted good, healthy sleep hygiene and good sleep habits. And then to know when to seek medical advice, medical care, that it could be a medical problem interfering with your sleep, because there's habits, but then there's also medical conditions that interfere with sleep.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let me explore that. So if you're willing to share, you are a medical professional, you have a sleep expertise, you're also a executive who has practical realities and stressors and responsibilities. What are your sleep habits and what are the results of you employing them?
Yeah. I'd say that the couple of things that I counsel on, and then I try to live my life in accordance, is not using your bed for non-sleep activities. And look, I do pediatrics, so I just talk about not using your bed for non-sleep activities. For adults, it's for sleep and sex. But for pediatrics, hopefully just sleep. And so not like hanging out in your bed to do homework. My daughter loves to sit in her bed and live her life in her room on her bed.
Teenager.
And then says, Mom, I can't sleep. And I'm like, oh no, don't tell me you can't sleep when you know exactly what it is that's causing these problems. So not using your bed, because your brain, this is what I say, your brain is smart. It knows that there's more than one thing that happens in this space. And when you spend too much time doing other things in bed, your brain won't turn off to go to sleep very easily. So if you're going to watch television, don't do that in bed. If you're going to Read a book. Don't do that in bed. Homework, art, anything. Do it on a couch, the floor, a beanbag chair, a table, anywhere but the bed. It's not your bedroom that's the problem. It's the actual bed.
Actual bed. Got it.
Yeah. The second thing is to turn the screens off 60 minutes before bed. That's a hard one for me. I'll be honest. I struggle with that one a little bit myself, but I have done a lot to put the plug to where I plug my phone in across and on a different spot. So it's not easy to just grab my phone and look at it. Once I put it down to go to sleep, you put it down. Because the blue, with the blue light filters and the sleep mode and the night mode, there's still a small amount of blue light that gets through that suppresses your natural melatonin production, makes it really hard to fall asleep. And if you wake up in the middle of the night, as you get older, the older executives will certainly have.
Oh, there's none of them on this call, by the way. I know we have no video for listeners, but there's no older executives on this call.
Menopause has been rough for me. But when you get older, you're more likely to wake up in the middle of the night. So sleeping in a cool environment that is will help you sleep better. It's better to sleep in a cooler environment with like pillows and blankets and things like that than a warmer environment with less blankets. Your body actually sleeps better in cooler temperatures. So there are definitely some things, those sorts of things that really will help you. And then some people will meditate or listen to some white noise or something to just kind of help clear their mind. Those that have like racing thoughts or can't shut off the day.
Yeah.
That's really rough for a lot of people. Luckily, that's not my biggest issue, is that for whatever reason, I can, for the most part, unless there's something, that's unique that happened that day, but for the most part, I can shut it off, but a lot of people can't shut it off. And using something that helps you focus on a white noise. Some people like the ocean, some people like the sound of rain. That will be helpful.
How about dog snoring? Does that seem to help for people? Because I get that in stereo when I'm sleeping. I just want to know if there's any research behind that.
That can be a white noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Anyone out there, if you're experiencing that, you're not alone.
My cat snores, so I don't have a dog, but I do have a loud breathing cat that sleeps right between my husband and I at night. Like, she likes to be right in the middle of things.
It's like
our children that crawl in bed. I have a cat that crawls in bed.
Yeah. Some people I think struggle with the falling asleep, and then there's the waking up in the middle of the night, whether it's to go to the bathroom if you're getting that up in age or something wakes you up. Or for me, it has been, before I retired as CEO, even now, like those thoughts, the things you've done, you haven't done, or you're redoing them in your head, those things wake you up. Any advice or research around kind of helping folks with those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, if you're a woman going through menopause, I do recommend seeing this goes often untreated, is going to see your internist or your gynecologist about potentially using hormone therapy or treatment for menopause, because menopause is a huge change that impacts sleep. It's not just hot flashes. Like, people will say, well, I don't get hot flashes at night, so that's not, but you just have fragmented sleep from menopause. That is a symptom. And it's treatable. I was such a good sleeper up until menopause. And then I was up like 4 times a night, like just kept waking up. And I did go on, personally went on hormone therapy, and now I can sleep through the night again. And it is because the health risks of treating menopause with hormonal therapy are less than the risks of chronic night awakenings and poor sleep. It's really just a risk-benefit analysis, and you have to there's risks of treating menopause with hormones too. So you have to see your doctor to see if it's appropriate for you. But I think more times where it would be appropriate, people suffer in silence alone, and they just think, well, it's just menopause and I can't do anything about it. Well, menopause can last 8 years, and that's a long time to go without sleep. So it's worth a conversation with your doctor.
Yeah, absolutely. 1 to 2 nights without good sleep, and I think people are impaired. Right?
100%.
Yeah. 100%. I was reading something the other day that, driving while sleepy is the same as driving while drunk.
Intoxicated. That's correct. Yeah.
So, I mean, this is just not something to suffer in silence with, like you suggested. And, sleep is I think the foundation for all of our other health habits, our eating and our exercising and our meditating, if we don't have this foundation, it just seems like we don't have anything else.
Yeah, I mean, people don't realize that our weight, so that even if it's just for for this alone, your weight is and where your set point is for where your weight is impacted by sleep deprivation. Sleep deprivation resets your clock, the scale of like where your set point is for your weight higher. So it's actually good for losing weight too. So if you've been on a diet and you're really struggling, one of the first things that you want to look at is your sleep habits, because can be part of the problem for sure. And there's so much more research in the last 10, 15 years about obesity and impaired sleep and their relationship together. It's definitely worth a look up for people who might have interest in more details about it.
Wow.
It really does impact your weight as well, and your weight impacts your health as well. So these things are very interconnected for sure. And your ability to manage stress is so much better when you've had a good night's sleep. I mean, I think everyone can relate to going a couple of days and not sleeping well, because it happens to all of us. And then your stress level goes up, your cortisol goes up,
Right.
your mood goes down. It can trigger depression. It increases anxiety.
Yeah.
It makes you more irritable. These are all things that, think about a toddler that doesn't sleep well. Think about what their behavior is like.
And then we're just big toddlers walking around the office trying to lead teams of people doing work, right?
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
what could that possibly good could come out of that?
yeah,
And we're
exactly.
just big toddlers with tantrums walking around the office. I often say leaders bring the weather. And what kind of weather are we creating if we are not sleeping well the night before?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. And recognizing uh, some people that's just their normal to not sleep well, and they just don't realize that how that impacts their mood and their behavior and their health throughout the day. I mean,
Hmm.
and if you do engage in good, healthy sleep habits, I've seen lots of people where their habits are very good, but they wake up a lot. That is a sign that you could have a legit biological
Mhm.
medical sleep disorder.
Right.
Things like periodic limb movement disorder, restless legs, sleep apnea are all things that are treatable. And there are sleep experts. I do pediatric sleep, but there's adult sleep professionals, and that's their job, is to help tease out hey, you're really doing, everything or most things right, and it's not helping.
So people that have gone through, all the things you've suggested, right? They're doing the screen time, they've got cool environment, they're shutting stuff down, right? They're doing all these things and they're still experiencing these disruptive sleep patterns. Your advice is get more help, seek actual specific help from a medical professional, because there could be something that they can't even treat themselves.
Right. There would be, these are treatable. I mean, if you had, there's so many more treatments now and recognition of, for example, periodic limb movement disorder and restless leg. It can be treated with medication or even iron therapy, like iron deficiency. And this is again, like where your diet impacts your sleep too.
Yeah.
So, if you're eating processed Twinkies for lunch every day,
They still make Twinkies.
they do actually make
It's
they,
funny you know that.
they do. I walk right by them in the aisle, but I was like, oh, I remember loving Twinkies. But anyway, so
Yeah.
if you have a healthy diet of processed packaged food for
Twinkies.
lunch, if you're busy and you don't have time to cook,
Yeah.
your diet can be poor. Like if you're not eating iron rich foods and you're iron deficient,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
you
And you
know,
wouldn't know that. You would just be suffering, right? Thinking, oh, I have to stop watching television, or I didn't do this, or I didn't do that. And people just blame themselves a lot. I think when they think it's all under their control, and there's just things that aren't, or you don't know yet, right? And so we need to find out, or we might be afraid to find out, right? And I think I hear a lot of empowering stuff from you, like these things that you would find out are still treatable and
yes,
help for you. Yeah.
yeah. I can't tell you how often a parent will tell me on a consultation that they think their child doesn't sleep just because it's genetic, because they're not a good sleeper. And
Oh.
I try to explain that you probably have a treatable sleep condition you're suffering with. And now, now we'll treat your child, but also you. And a funny story was I had a colleague of mine that wasn't, for years hasn't slept well, and she just wanted to learn about sleep. So she sat in on a consult I did for sleep. And it turns out that she had the same condition that the child had. And after she got iron treatment, she actually needed iron infusions. She's sleeping so much better. And that was all just because she decided to sit in on one of my consultations and listen to the advice I was giving to the family. And, so it is important. I always feel like I'm preaching this all the time, but it has such positive impacts on your ability to lead and your emotional state and your health and your ability. We want you to live long past retirement and enjoy retirement and beyond. And sleep disruption is just one of those things that might, limit your ability to do that. Both today and into the future.
Right. So, there I feel like it was the doctor speaking, right? But just before that, I heard the leader speaking. We want people to be at their best, performing at their best, and making good decisions for the company, right? As a leader. So how do I empower them to do that? And, earlier you shared one, we have to say it out loud. We have to say, look, your sleep and your mental and your emotional well-being is important here. And it's important here. And here's how we're going to show you it's important. We're going to, educate you about it. We're going to encourage those important practices. We're going to motivate you to do them, and we're going to model them, right? Cheryl's going to take a walk outside at lunch today and post a picture about it on the social Slack channel, right?
Yeah.
Those kinds of things. Yeah. That's just wonderful. So other things you shared today, Cheryl, I think are just so great that I want to highlight. Becoming comfortable with uncertainty has been part of your journey. As a young professional, as a growing leader, as a seasoned leader, as somebody who's changed paths and careers and still experiencing that today. And I highlight that again, another quote from you I'm going to continue to use: becoming comfortable with uncertainty. And I think that relates to parenthood as well as it does to leadership. So thank you for sharing that with us today. I love the dichotomy you shared between stress being good stress and sort of bad stress, and the kind that feeds you and is maybe temporary and time limited and something that you can come into and go out of. And then there's this bad stress that is bringing you down, more the burnout kind, maybe the kind that's pushed on you and you have no control over, right? And getting people to be thinking about it in that way so that they can notice, which one of these am I under and can I do something about it? Because if you don't notice, you can't be empowered around that. And I think was a very powerful outcome. And then just these sleep habits you shared, right? Using your bed for sleep or sex as an adult, 60 minutes of screen time free before bed, cool environment, and then something that's calming you down, whether it's a meditation or white noise, something that's just getting you ready for sleep. Just great advice there. And if you're still suffering after all of those good habits, just seeking medical advice, right? There are treatable conditions that could still be contributing to poor sleep at that point if you've already put into practice all of those things. So just an amazing conversation today. I'm just totally blown away by everywhere we went and all of the great advice that we've been able to share for folks today. So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate everything you shared.
Thank you so much. I really enjoyed talking with you today. I appreciate this and all the things you're doing. I love your podcast.
Oh, thank you. If people want to learn more about you, where you are, what you're doing, or the sleep parts, the autism pieces, anything, where can they find you? More about your company, please share.
Yeah, they can check out our website. That's the easiest, would be www.meliora-health.com. And there we have a lot of information for families that might be seeking care. And as we grow, we add everything to our website. It's there. So that would be great. Thank you.
Right. And if they want help with sleep, where can they go? Because anything you share, I'll also put in the show notes.
Yeah, that's where particularly for children 16 months to 21, 21 years old, we do sleep consults there, so they can request an appointment for a sleep consultation right there. Yeah.
Awesome. Wonderful. And we'll have all that in the show notes so people can find that. Thank you again, Cheryl. It has been magic today.
Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Take care, guys. Bye. Thank you for joining me today for another great hustle conversation with the Central PA Executive. You can find out more about my guest in the show notes. And if you liked the episode or have something to add to our conversation, please find me on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. Subscribe, rate, and review. Remember, leadership is best practice in community. You know a leader who needs to hear something from this episode, so pay it forward and send it to them today. Don't wait. Until next time, the best leaders not only lead well, they live well and learn well. Bye now.